Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yoda Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, well, the NFL Combine has come and gone, and I do feel like this has impacted my view on some of these players, man. I gotta tell you, maybe especially in the season that the Chargers are looking for a speed wideout, may have been a little bit underwhelming. Not one wide receiver ran a sub 4.3, which again, that's really fast. But some of the names that we were looking forward to in performing, let's say at a higher expected speed, just did not pan out. Does it mean that I'm out on the position? Absolutely not. But things are shifting a little bit in terms of like where I'm willing to be drafting some players and even positions now that some of the combine results have come in. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my risers and fallers in terms of some of the players that I'm looking for. Let's say in the first 3 rounds, there's going to be some guys at value you can find a little bit later, but I do think that especially in a season that the Chargers are looking for speed specifically, things may have shifted now that the results of the combine have come in. So it should be an interesting one. Now, before we do get started, 2 things. All right, first off, you guys are probably asking yourselves, where's director been? Right, it's been like a week. That's certainly a long time in between videos from my channel, at least. Well, I decided to quit vaping this last month, or I should say last week, and it's officially, I think tomorrow it'll officially be 1 week since the last time I used it. And I'll tell you guys, it was kind of crazy. It was not my favorite week at all. And the only reason I'm sharing it with you guys is if you guys have goals and stuff like that that you want to accomplish, just know that there's people out there that have experienced it, and I'm out here, the director, rooting for the Bolt fam to better themselves. And this is after last year of losing like 75 pounds. I did gain a little bit back, especially this last week. I'll tell you what, holy cow, was there a lot of eating involved to distract myself, but officially vape free. And the second thing, of course, we want to do is give a shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to support the channel, have a little bit of fun along the way, use code director to match your first deposit up to $100 and have fun, you know, watching other sports like NFL, NHL, NBA, and stuff like that, especially now during the NFL off season. So should be a pretty good one. Well, guys, thank you so much for doing. Let's do this, man. Let's do this. Hit us with the like, hit us with the sub. Really helps out the channel. As always, let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. My 2023 NFL Combine risers and fallers. I'll tell you guys right now, quitting vaping was one of the hardest things I think I've ever done in my entire life. And with that, let's jump into some of the results that we saw from the NFL Combine this last weekend and talk a little bit about maybe what was a bit of a disappointment, right? And in this video, we're going to kind of go over every single position a little bit and kind of talk about like where I'm at on the position, some of the risers and fallers in terms of players within that position, and more so just kind of get a lay of the land in terms of how I feel the Chargers should be investing, let's say, their first 3 picks, right? Because if you asked me a couple of days ago before the Combine, I would have been like, you know, wide receiver's really high up there for me. Like I would say like 80% wide receiver, we need the speed. That's kind of where I'm going to be standing still or standing firm. Now with some of the results that we've seen, other positions like tight end, edge, maybe even DB have slowly been raising the board for me. So let's take a look at what we're talking about here, right? Wide receiver. Let's take a look at the 40-yard dash specifically. There are some other, aspects to the combine that are certainly important. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba certainly helped his draft stock with things like, the 3-cone drill and stuff like that, 10-yard split. But I think the biggest thing the Chargers are aiming for is speed, and that's where the 40-yard dash is going to become so important. Now, there were a couple of guys that did stand out that looked pretty good. Trey Palmer, he's probably going to be a day 3 pick. He has a lot of rawness around him. Maybe someone the Chargers can take a flyer on that has the best speed in the draft at 4.33, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. It's been a while since I think I've seen a wide receiver class not put up, I would say, more players in the sub 4s and then maybe 1 or 2 in the sub 3s. So definitely not the year for speedy wide receiver. Other guys like Bryce Ford Wheaton, Marvin Mims maybe climbed a little bit, but for the most part, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the wide receiver position as a whole is a fall for me. And again, I think mainly it's got to do with that speed. And to kind of go over that, I want to go through and highlight some of my risers and fallers within the wide receiver position specifically, because it doesn't mean I'm out on wide receivers completely. I mean, heck, I think there's still guys in here that'll certainly help the Chargers with that speed, even if they're not like, you know, breakneck blazers like a John Ross or a Henry Ruggs, but there's still guys out there that are going to have some nice speed. Now, Quentin Johnson, I don't think he ran the 40. I'm actually pretty certain that he did not, but I would expect him to have ran a mid, let's say 4.45, somewhere around there, which is still certainly pretty fast. He's still on my radar, but let me actually go through some of the guys that I have listed here specifically, starting with Zay Flowers. I think that's one of the biggest guys the Chargers fans are asking themselves about. Director, are you still high on Zay Flowers? Now, if you guys take a look at the combine results, Zay Flowers still put up a really nice time of 4.42. That's certainly not slow, okay, guys? Matter of fact, that's going to be clocking in as maybe one of the fastest wide receivers in the Chargers roster. Maybe not the fastest if we decide to keep Jalen Guyton, but, you know, at the same time, this dude is such a complete receiver, so fast. He has got insane control over his agility and his ability to move in space. I'm going to label him as steady, okay? And as the video suggests, it's risers and fallers. I'm going to throw steady in there, too, because my view is Zay Flowers, even though he didn't run a sub 4.4, it remains about the same. As a matter of fact, I think in my last video when I was like telling you guys what to look out for in the draft, I think I predicted a 4.42 for Zay Flowers, and that's exactly what happened. And in that video, I said I would be cool with it because of the way he uses that speed. He's a very complete player. He looks very, very nice. I would expect Zay Flowers to still be on my board, if that makes sense. Even though he didn't run a 4.4 or a sub 4.4, he's still a very fast receiver, and he would be a very good weapon for the Chargers. Now, what about another guy? Let's say, you know, I would say some people are starting to fall on a little bit, and it's kind of crazy to me to see him continuing to fall down boards. Jordan Addison, he's going to be a rise for me. We'll get to the falls here in just a second, guys. Don't worry about it. Jordan Addison, to me, it's tough because you have to view the wide receiver position a little bit different, especially when you're talking about pick 21. Even if the Chargers decide to trade down, whatever, Jordan Addison, to me, you have to be in a specific mindset, right? You got to be thinking the Chargers are drafting for the future here, because Jordan Addison certainly isn't slow. He posted, I think, a 4.49, which is still certainly pretty fast, maybe a little slower than I was expecting, but he is such a complete player, probably the best route runner in the NFL. If you are drafting a Jordan Addison, it's not because you're trying to find or add that burner to the team. You're trying to future-proof the team a little bit, because I think there's very few players that I would trust to even come close to sniffing a successor role for Keenan Allen, who could end up being the last year we see him as a Charger this year. I think it just was confirmed that we're not trading him this year, which obviously I think is the right call. Next season, however, though, depending on the cap situation, it's a lot of a friendlier deal if the Chargers want to move on at that point. So if you're looking to, let's say, future-proof the team, help yourselves out if you have to move on from a Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison's probably my favorite option in this draft, and he rose for me because of that aspect. I certainly don't think he's slow. He's going to be in the range of a Deebo Samuel, if you guys need a comparison there in terms of speed. I think, honestly, Devonta Smith as well. They ran almost an identical 40. Both those players looked at as very fast. They would be very good in the Charger system. But what he can do outside of that really makes me consider, if we're still going wide receiver, we might as well get a guy who's decently fast, but also future-proofs the team for years to come, especially with all the question marks around the Keenan Allen situation. Now, what about other guys like Jalen Hyatt? Okay, let's actually go down here. There's plenty of guys that we need to talk about. Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. This is a fall for me. What did he end up posting here, man? Jalen Hyatt, it was one of the higher times, but it still didn't live up. Jalen Hyatt posted a 4.4. Which again is not slow. That's a good speed. That's a good time, right? In the modern day NFL, it's a good time. But what we were expecting out of Jalen Hyatt, I was certainly expecting a sub 4.4. I was thinking something like a 4.34, 4.35. It just didn't happen. And that to me changes my perspective on Jalen Hyatt, because at first, again, this is just kind of crazy with new information how quickly things can change. 3 or 4 days ago, I would have told you guys Jalen Hyatt may be in the first round if the Chargers are very serious about that speed. Well, then all of a sudden he posts a 4.4, and I'm having to reconsider things a little bit. Now I'm thinking maybe a second rounder, and I think there's a chance now that he could fall if the Chargers want to go at a different position in the first round. I would be okay with Jalen Hyatt. Again, I'm not out on him, but I would have to get him at a little bit of a different cost, different price, right? Because now all of a sudden I'm thinking that speed isn't as breakneck as I was hoping to justify an early pick. Now I'm hoping maybe we can take a good speed at 4.4 at a more reasonable cost in the second, maybe even third round, depending on how you view the guy. There's some people that love him, some people thinking that he's a one-trick pony. I'm of the opinion that he would fit very well with the Chargers, but I wouldn't really be considering him in the first round any longer. It was kind of barely on that radar for me before. Now it's like, okay, if we were talking 4.35, 4.34, maybe first round, now not so much. So Jalen Hyatt, he's going to be a fall for me. Another guy that was kind of tragically a fall for me because he was slowly becoming one of my favorites in the draft, Nathaniel Tank Dell out of Houston. Now, again, I'm not out on Tank, right? But again, you got to reconsider where you're drafting him. Some people were saying, like, maybe if you trade down, you can get him, you know, in the low 20s, maybe a high second-round pick. And that's certainly still an option for me if the Chargers decide to, let's say, trade out of 21. You want to grab a Nathaniel Dell a little bit later, that's fine. But he's still a fall for me. What was his 40? It was like a 4.5, right? Where's Tank Dell? Nathaniel Dell. Where did you go? Right here. Tank Dell. 4.49. Why did I say 4.5? No, 4.49. Again, you're hoping to see something in the 4.3s. I think a lot of these guys, that's why I'm disappointed. A lot of these guys, I was hoping to see in like the higher 4.3s, the mid 4.3s, and it just didn't happen. You know, Jordan Addison actually posted a little bit of a better time than I was expecting. 4.49 is not too bad, but guys like Tank Dell, Josh Downs, maybe a little bit slower than I expected. Who else? Tyler Scott at a 4.44. I was hoping to see in the 4.3s. Zay Flowers, I was hoping to see in the 4.3s, but 4.42 was fine. Trey Tucker, 4.4. Again, I was expecting to see in the 4.3s. Jalen Hyatt, low 4.3s. Even Marvin Mims, who definitely is not slow. 4.38 is pretty good. I was expecting to see a little bit lower than that. So again, everyone just kind of underperformed in terms of speed this season. Tank Dell, again, he's going to be one of those guys that you're like, I was considering maybe a second round. What do they have on him on PFF right here? Yeah, I was considering like a second round kind of guy. He still knows how to use that speed very well. 4.49, again, isn't slow, but it's not the burning kind of speed the Chargers fans were hoping for. And again, it makes me reconsider things a little bit. Now, Nathaniel Dell, he's a sit and wait for me in round 2, right? Trade downs, maybe you can convince me in that, but it's tough. It's really tough to justify without seeing that breakneck speed. And finally, the last guy I kind of wanted to touch base on, even though I'm still kind of out on him, I'm going to say Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going to be kind of steady, maybe even rise just a tiny little bit, because he did perform very well on other drills not labeled the 40. And again, the biggest reason you take this guy is because you're planning forward for Keenan Allen. Okay, this guy, again, what do they say here? Slot dude, technically savvy. What's some of the strengths here? He says he gets it. Laura, whatever. He's just a very, this is the word I'm looking for here, ultra reliable kind of receiver. It reminds me a little bit of Justin Herbert's relationship with Keenan Allen. And if you're looking for that look, he says shades of Julian Edelman. That's perfect. That's perfect in what I'm trying to express here. If you are moving on from Keenan in the next couple of seasons, Jackson can be that guy that can step in and maybe take that role. But right now, I don't know if I'm about it because we need speed. And again, even in a draft class that kind of disappointed in terms of the speed in the combine, there's still guys out there that can offer you something. My favorite, gun to my head, guys, because it's actually a little bit tougher now to organize my priorities in terms of wide receiver. Who am I still willing to go in the first round for? My number one guy, even though, you know, the 40, you have to take it into account, but it's not everything. My number one guy is probably still Jordan Addison, followed by Zay Flowers, who posted the 4.42 right here. And then after that, I really wish I would have seen him run the 40, but I think he would have posted a great time anyway. It would probably be Quentin Johnston at number 3. So that's kind of my top 3 guys right now. But you guys let me know how this has shifted things. Receiver did disappoint me in terms of the speed. There's still options, but it also opens up the door for other positions, right? I think a lot of Chargers fans, myself included, very stubborn on the thought of bringing in a wide receiver. Now my horizons are broadening a little bit. We're going to go a little bit faster with the other positions because I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what the wide receiver position looked like and why I'm kind of softening on it. But now, with that said, let's go into other positions like tight end. Now, tight end, I labeled the position as a whole is steady. Okay, if we go back here and take a look at the combine results again, we'll take just a look at the 40. With a tight end, you want to look at other things like bench and shuttle and vertical and stuff like that too. But just taking a look at the 40, there's a couple of guys that do stand out that I like. Okay, the first one I will say, Dalton Kincaid. Funny enough, he rose for me, even though he didn't participate in the combine. He rose, right? And I just think it's because of everybody else that we're seeing, the kind of things that I'm seeing from other tight ends that the Chargers could consider, and some of the things that they don't live up to in terms of some of their faults, right? Some of the things that they got to work on. Dalton Kincaid, he's the cleanest prospect that you're going to find. He's going to be probably one of the fastest. If he would have run the 40-yard dash, I would have had to expect him to be in the low 4.5s, which would have been one of the highest, or one of the best times at the tight end position. Yeah, so I would have probably put him maybe even as the fastest tight end in the class, maybe just behind Will Mallory, who knows. But just seeing all the other tight ends made me want Dalton Kincaid even more, as well as considering the speed you're getting at wide receiver in the first round made me want the tight end position just a little bit more than I did before, if this all makes sense. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's kind of jumbled out here, but I do feel like tight end rose a little bit because of what you could get in Dalton Kincaid versus the kind of speed that we're hoping to get at wide receiver. So Kincaid, he rose a little bit. Sam Laporta rose for me as well. He'll be down here. He ran, what, a 4.59? Not too bad. He's got things that got to clean up, right? But he's going to be your Dalton Kincaid light, right? You got your Crystal Light. You got your Miracle Whip Light, the low-fat edition. It's going to be Sam Laporta. He's got things he's got to work on, but he's a good vertical threat, and I think he'll end up being a very good tight end for whoever decides to draft him. Luke Musgrave, I also think is rising a little bit for me too. He's 4.61, definitely not slow. I think he's been somebody that was really high for a while, and then I think he got injured, right? And then I think people are slowly coming back into the Musgrave narrative. I would be pretty happy with him. He's a rise for me as well. Darnell Washington, probably the biggest riser for me at tight end. He's a guy that I think a lot of us labeled as just a pure blocker. Don't even think about him if you're looking for a receiver in the draft. If your team likes to throw to the tight end position more than they like to block, then don't even look at Darnell Washington. Well, he did some crazy stuff in the combine, right? I don't think he posted the craziest. I think 4.64 is certainly not slow for the position, but some of the things he did in those receiving drills, man, were kind of crazy. You guys remember the one-handed catch? He's got a huge radius. I think the potential for him to translate a little bit better as a receiver into the NFL does exist, and he did make it a pretty impressive thing to witness for the tight end position. And then lastly, some people will say, well, Director, your favorite guy a couple of weeks ago was Michael Mayer to the Chargers. Has that changed? I will say I'm steady on Michael Mayer, okay? And again, like something I said in the What to Expect video, I actually did say if he can run in the low 4.7s, the high 4.6s, I would be happy. He ended up running a 4.7 flat. And that's because, again, that's not something I'm disappointed. That's something I was 100% expecting. And that's because of what he is as a tight end. Very complete. Great run blocker. Great blocker, as a whole, right? A possession receiver. You can throw him up 50-50 ball. Those kinds of contests, he'll come down with it a good majority of the time. He's your safety blanket. He's the guy that, as a last resort, if nobody else is open, you toss it up and you pray. Kind of like a Mike Williams. If you have Mike Williams and Michael Mayer on the same team, you're feeling pretty good as Justin Herbert at least having options. So Michael Mayer, to me, again, I'm going to be steady on him. I would say at this point in time, I think Dalton Kincaid fits more of what the Chargers want out of the position, but Michael Mayer is so complete, and for him to continue falling down boards because of the 40 time or whatever he put up at the combine, I think is a mistake, because that's not what he is as a player, right? The athleticism isn't Michael Mayer. It's what he provides as a complete player. So Michael Mayer, I'm going to remain steady on him. Didn't rise, didn't fall, but I was already pretty high on him to begin with. Next up, we're going to lightly cover this because there's not too many players that I want to cover, but it's a very important conversation to have, the halfbacks. I'm rising on this position exponentially, okay, significantly, and that's because Bijan Robinson, dude, taking a look at what we saw at wide receiver, taking a look at what we're seeing at tight end so far, right? There's some defensive guys that are making me raise my eyebrows a little bit, but taking a look at this draft class as a whole, the Chargers draft position, if Bijan Robinson is there at 21, which I'm really starting to doubt, especially after what we saw in the combine, right? He ran a 4.46, which is stupid fast for the kind of skill set you're getting out of this dude. 6 feet tall, 220 pounds. This dude's the future of elite running back play in the NFL. He really is special. He's, to me, the best player in this draft. So the chances of him even reaching the Chargers at 21, I think, are starting to become lower and lower. But if he is there at 21, right? And given what we've learned about the other positions, we're probably not going to find the speed we're looking for unless, let's say, we feel good about a Zay Flowers, a Jordan, whatever. I'm finding it harder and harder to pass on this guy, dude. He's so good. He put up a great combine performance. He's going to be one of the best players translating into the NFL in his rookie season. The Chargers have a huge need in improving their run game. The reason I have running back as sharply rising is because Bijan Robinson is sharply rising on my personal board in terms of who I would take over him. There's very few players I would take over Bijan all of a sudden. I would maybe take Kincaid, right? I would maybe take Zay Flowers. Jordan Addison, I think I would. But those are like the top tier of those positions. If those guys are gone, or if you're questioning the speed or any of the aspects of the other players, you take Bijan Robinson and you don't look back. I don't know, man. It's just getting tougher. There's other guys that I feel like were rising for me a little bit. Tank Bigsby put up a nice 40 for the size. Where is he on here? Tank Bigsby. This is also another big guy. 6 feet tall, 213. He's going to really help the Chargers in that specific role. But the only reason I'm bringing up running back at all is because of Bijan. I'm finding it very difficult to pass on him with every draft he reaches 21 in my mocks. You guys take with that what you will. Next up, offensive line. There's not really anybody. I mean, there's some guards that I'm kind of considering. Osiris Torrance is certainly not a bad option at 21, especially if we decide, what we're going to do with Jamari Sawyer. Is he going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a guard? I know he's going to start this season, but guard's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about tackle for just a second. Again, we'll just take a couple of seconds here. I don't think Paris Johnson's going to be there. Peter's not going to be there. Anton maybe. The guys in my range, I think that could fall to the Chargers. I think DeJuan Jones the most likely. He's a right tackle. Chargers need him. Broderick Jones as well. This dude, I think okay, I'll be honest. I didn't really watch much of the tackle class in the NFL Combine. Really, who does? But just thinking about it, because again, as one position rises or falls, the other positions have to shift in terms of their position as well, right? So, for example, wide receiver maybe fell a little bit for me. Offensive line, you're starting to kind of convince me a little bit more, and okay, maybe I'll be all right with it. Offensive line, 3rd year in a row. Let's go. We're gonna be set. Justin Herbert's gonna be fine. But it's tough passing on the skill positions. It's not as flashy, but now I'm opening up a little bit more to it because I didn't find exactly what I was looking for at the other positions. Offensive line, Broderick Jones, he'd be fantastic. DeJuan Jones, back to the Joneses, right? Both these guys rising for me a little bit because it's starting to meet in terms of value the other skill positions I was hoping to see as well. So offensive line, rise. So what are we at so far? Just as a quick recap. Wide receivers have fallen. Tight end has been steady for me. Running back has risen dramatically. Offensive line has risen. Let's move on to some of the defensive positions, starting with a position I think has risen for everybody, man. I think everybody, Chargers fans especially, can't take a look at this draft class any longer and ignore some of the potential we could see at 21. I feel like there's some guys who can go out there and draft in the 2nd and 3rd rounds and be pretty happy with. But I feel like, again, when it comes to value and what you're getting and how deep this position group is in 2023, edge really has to be very high up there for a lot of us, especially now that wide receivers lowered maybe a little bit, right? Tight end is probably kind of hovering around where it was. Edge, it went up. And I think it's competing, at least for me, in justifying a 1st round pick now. Mainly because of this dude. Okay, so we're not going to get Will Anderson. Tyree Wilson, probably not. Lucas Van Ness certainly could be a guy available to the Chargers. He's kind of a up and down for me. I still think I would be excited about him. But the guy that's kind of in our range, even here at PFF ranked 21, the Chargers pick, Nolan Smith. What the heck, dude? The guy, look at this. Okay, so 6'3", 235 pounds, maybe a little undersized for the position in some people's perspectives. But this guy only went out there and ran a 4.39 at the combine. A sub 4.4 at the edge position is stupid. This dude's a lightning bolt. This dude's a thunderbolt. This guy's got pretty good technique. This guy, dude, again, he's one of those dudes that we listed as, well, let's see what he's got. We could use another speed rusher out there, but holy crap, did he go out there and really prove himself in that aspect. What are they talking about now? 1st or 2nd round. I would be happy with him in the 1st. right? We got to think ahead. Maybe Khalil Mack isn't a Charger next season. I think he would be, but who knows? We got to look ahead beyond the Mack and Bosa era to who's going to be stepping into that position in the future, because Mack is getting up there, man. Joey Bosa, I think he'll be here around for the remainder of his contract at least, but who's stepping in after Mack? Who's rotating in this season? Nolan Smith is really good, man. He's really a sub 4.4 at that size is ridiculous, and he's gonna translate into the NFL really, really nice. What did they say up here? Lightning off the edge. Is that not an omen? That's a good omen. I don't know, man. I think Nolan Smith has certainly risen on my board a little bit. Lucas Van Ness, he ran a 4.58, I do believe. Yeah, he did right here. For his size, that's really good. He's another one of those speed guys that you're going to want off the edge. But the biggest guy I was kind of impressed with him. Okay, Will McDonald, yes, I should have labeled him too. Where's this other guy? Okay, how do we say it? Okay, I wrote it down, the pronunciation. Adi Tamiwa Adi Bare. Okay, this dude rose. He put up a crazy, even on PFF, they're talking about one of the most impressive performers at the Combine this weekend. His 4.49, second 40, 282 pounds. Ridiculous. 161, 10-yard split. Ridiculous. 37.5-inch vertical. A 10'5" broad jump. 27 bench press reps. That's crazy. This dude's an athlete. This dude's a freak. I do think he's going to fit in very, very well with the Chargers. I don't know if he's going to cost you a first rounder. I think he's more of what, a second or third? I would say more of a second, third round pick. I think he rose quite a bit, but I think he's one of those guys that adds an option for the Chargers after the first round. I think I'd be cool with him in the second. He did very, very well. So edge, the position as a whole has risen dramatically for me, okay? Now, only a couple of positions left here, and of course, we're talking defense. Next up, we got to talk linebackers for just a split second, because this is a position group that fell dramatically for me. There's not a lot there. I didn't see anything that really made me change my mind on that. As a matter of fact, I told myself there's only a couple of guys that I would kind of consider going in on. Okay? Drew Sanders, kind of. I think you're going to want somebody that's good in coverage, right? Does Trent Simpson? I know Dorian Williams is. He's one of those guys where I'm like, okay, third round, we need to replace maybe a Drew Tranquil. I feel okay about him. Take a look at this, man. He's a good coverage guy, right? Skill set with the kind of length defensive coordinators can work with. 6'2". He's got some speed. What did he end up running in the Combine? Real quick, humor me here, guys, because again, that is kind of important. Dorian Williams, 4.49. That's fantastic. That's fine. Okay, so Dorian Williams, to me, one of the only guys that I would consider a third-round kind of prospect. What was it? DeMarvion Overshown, kind of in that category for me as well, but I think Dorian's a better coverage guy. So outside of that, linebackers, it's going to fall for me. I don't think I was ever considering them in the first round anyway, but Dorian makes me consider maybe a third-round pick, a day two kind of pick. That's maybe the highest I would go. All right. Lastly, let's get into the DBs, starting with the cornerback position. And you know what? This is a position that rose dramatically for me. Okay, this is a position that I wasn't really considering, especially in the first round, mind you, for the Chargers at 21. Maybe if we traded down, I don't know. But if we stayed put, there's a couple of guys that I think in that range would make me pretty excited about the future. Cornerbacks as a whole is going to rise for me. We're not going to get Devon Witherspoon. We're not going to get Christian Gonzalez. But you know who we could get? We could get a Joey Porter. He's consistently being mocked around our pick at 21, and he would be great. What did he end up running? Did I? Man, I forgot to write down the times. Let's go to cornerback real quick here. I know it wasn't the fast. Joey Porter ran a 4.46. That's actually fine. That's great. That's not too slow. That's just kind of just right? That's just right for the kind of player he is. Very intelligent, right? Maybe, I don't know. I would be very happy with the Joey Porter. And again, that's thinking ahead. The Chargers, tell me what the position looks like outside of Asante Samuel right now. Okay, we got Michael Davis. He's good. He's on contract for one more year. We got J.C. Jackson. That's a huge question mark. Is he going to recover? Is he going to be the same player? Is he going to start fitting into the system like he was starting to before going down with injury? We don't know. Corner is not as steady as I feel a lot of us think it is. So a pick like Joey Porter, that may turn out to be pretty good. I would say I'm kind of steady on him. I was already pretty high on him. I'm pretty steady on him now. I would say my perspective on drafting a corner in the first round went up dramatically. Joey Porter looks like a really good pick there. Okay? Matter of fact, we'll click on him real quick here on PFF. Yeah, press cornerback. Fits the system beautifully. I like it. A very, very smart player, too. I feel like Joey Porter would be a great fit. But you know who kind of rose for me? Deonte Banks, man. Where is this dude? Deonte Banks. This is a dude that possesses size and speed. The dude only ran a 4.35. Was it a 4.35? Let's go check real quick. Deonte Banks, where are you? There he is. Yep, 4.35. Deonte Banks at 4.35. At 6'2", 205 pounds. One of the biggest things that they're talking about his good traits, his mirror ability, right? Banks is sticky without needing to use his size. That's crazy. And he went out there at a 4.35. That's crazier. Versatile cornerback, plays that L'Jarius Sneed, big slot, next level kind of guy. That would fit so well with the Chargers, dude. We could use him outside. We could use him inside. Very alike to a lot of the Chargers corners, as a matter of fact. He future-proofs you at Vato, and I think he has something to offer this season. I don't know. Cornerback rose for me. Deonte Banks, he's a first-rounder for me. I do think that in terms of physicality, he's probably one of the best corners you're going to find in this draft. He rose for me. But there was one other player that I wanted to put on your radar as a later-round guy, maybe second-rounder, Cam Smith. Now, this was a dude where I was like, man, is he so good at all aspects in terms of, especially when you're talking about what the Chargers need. This is a slot corner / safety. He's a crazy ball skills player in terms of positioning himself for turnovers and interceptions. He's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. He's just kind of slow. And I was like, man, the Chargers, both sides. We need speed on both sides. And it made me not really consider him much. You know what he did in the combine? He goes out there and he puts some of that to rest, right? You guys see right here. He says 4.43. That's a good time. That's a good time. I think a lot of us were expecting him to be in the low fives. A lot of us were expecting to see that physicality really disappoint in the combine, but he went out there and he kind of shut down some of those doubts. And that, to me, rises him significantly in terms of, I honestly would be kind of cool with it. You know, playing that slot corner safety hybrid role for the Chargers. Very good in terms of playmaking. I like Cam Smith quite a bit. The last corner I'll kind of highlight here because I think the biggest ones on my radar are the Joey Porters and the Deonte Banks, Cam Smith, these other guys a little bit later. The one guy I think we're all rooting for, though, of course, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, LT's nephew, that guy's nephew. You know what's kind of crazy? Also a TCU alumni. He does have a 5'9", very small for the position. LT was what, 5'10", 5'11"? Very small. Very, very small players. But, man, is he physical. Very, very physical. I don't think he's necessarily the biggest fit for the Chargers schematically. But a second or third rounder, who wouldn't want to see the Tomlinsons reunite with the Chargers at some point? And the last position I kind of want to touch base on, this did rise for me a little bit. Maybe not as much as other positions, is safety. But I do think I've been kind of telling you guys this whole time that safety is a very sneaky underrated need for this team. Yeah, we got Derwin James, we got Alohi Gilman, and we got JT Woods. Is that it? We got a couple undrafted guys, yada yada. The safety position is super important for the Chargers defensive scheme, right? That scheme, it's very dependent on it. It's also very dependent on moving around Derwin James. And right now, I don't know if we have the personnel to really do that freely, especially not having to let go of Nasir Adderley. So I would say a lot of these guys have remained steady for me, right? But my perspective and emphasis on the position has risen. Brian Branch didn't run the craziest 40. I don't think I was really expecting him to. He's your slot guy. He ran a 4.58, but man, is this dude good. You're talking playmaker, talking complete player, the best in the draft. And because of his position, I would say, and maybe a little bit of an underwhelming combine, I would say there's a huge possibility he could fall to the Chargers at pick 21. And the system they ran in Alabama, the role that he would be playing with the Chargers, it really translates very smoothly. Very, very smoothly. So Brian Branch, again, my investment as a first rounder, I would be pretty happy with him. Okay? Antonio Johnson, more of your second round guy. Also steady on him. I wouldn't say he had the craziest combine, but he's still fast, right? What did he end up running? Antonio Johnson at the safety position. I remember not being too spectacularly... Antonio Johnson, 4.52. Again, not crazy fast, but not slow either. 6'3", kind of versatile as well. Safety's important. Probably the biggest riser for me, though, is the next guy right here, Cindy Brown. right? This dude's a thumper. This dude, again, very complete. He can improve on the tackling a little bit, but again, very versatile. And he put up a great time, right? I don't recall at the top of my head. Sidney Brown, 4.47. Very nice. Very nice. And this dude, again, he justifies for me. At this point, I would say a trade down scenario in the first round, but certainly a second round pick. And again, this safety class is not super impressive, okay? And so if you can find a guy in the early rounds that fits your system at a value, because again, safety's always slept on, it always slides, I'd be pretty cool with it. All right, dudes, one of my longer videos in a while, but hey, it's been a minute. We're making up for lost time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Okay, there's a lot going on here. I would say, to kind of put a bow on it, right, wide receiver fell for me a decent distance. Okay, wide receiver, which was super firm for me in the first round, it fell. Tight end kind of remained the same. Edge really climbed for me. I'm going to tell you guys right now, edge is up there. Bijan Robinson in the running backs is up there. DB, especially safety, it's up there now. So now we got a real fight going on, dudes. Now we got a real, a tug of war going on in terms of who's worthy of that early pick. Are the Chargers going to remain steady? There's been rumors that the Chargers maybe try to trade down. Maybe get a couple of these dudes in the second. Maybe in the late first. You never know. So, I don't know, guys. You let me know in the comment section below what you're thinking. The Combine, be it a little bit disappointing, did help us shuffle around priority in terms of position a little bit. And I do think that is especially important to wrap our minds around because, again, the Chargers, they could go very many different directions at pick 21. At this point, I think, if available, the best players that I would hope fall to the Chargers, Bijan, Dalton Kincaid. I still like Jordan Addison a lot, even though he's not the fastest. And then you got guys like Nolan Smith, man, that could definitely make me excited. And then Brian Branch, too. So there's 4 or 5 decent guys. You guys let me know in the comment section below who you would be very excited with. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. Remember, you guys can conquer the world. You guys have goals to better your health, your self-improvement. Just take a look at my Twitter, man. It's not easy, but it's doable. We're off the vape. We're losing weight. Again, not trying to toot my own horn here, but it was difficult. And your guys' support really helped me through that. I'm hoping you guys out there can accomplish your own goals as well. We're all here as a community to support one another. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Bijan Robinson, man. It's really hard to not fall in love with that pick all of a sudden.